Oh boy, a new Mortal Kombat game, and one focusing on my favorite character, Sub-Zero. What's this on the back? Exploration. Worlds. Hold on, isn't this Mortal Kombat? It's supposed to be a fighting game, right? This looks more like a beat-em-up or something. Well, it's still made by the people who created the other games, so it can't be that bad. I mean, it is the 90s, and my short-sighted mind tells me that Mortal Kombat will always be good, especially over the next 10 years or so. Let's just pop the disc in and... So, this game exists. Even if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, there's a decent chance you still haven't heard of this thing. Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero. Released for the PlayStation 1 and Nintendo 64, and was intended to be the first of a game in a series of spin-offs, featuring different combatants in their own unique stories. Considering you haven't seen Mortal Kombat Mythologies Kintaro on the shelves recently, you should have pieced together that this game didn't do so well, and the idea behind Mythologies series was scrapped. Well, there's this one game, but I've entered a dark pact to forever banish that unholy nightmare from every facet of my memory. Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero, henceforth referred to as Mythologies, is different from the typical Mortal Kombat game in that it is a platformer slash beat-em-up with light Metroidvania elements. The game maintains the digitized sprites of the arcade games, as well as the same control scheme: high punch, low kick, and block, with special moves performed the same way as you would in the real games. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? I mean, there's no way the guys over at Midway could have possibly... Let's just get to work. Mythologies takes place shortly before the first Mortal Kombat game, and is 100% canon, meaning that this game, no one played, held key lore for the franchise, though I think I'm probably the only one who gives a crap about the story in these games. The original Sub-Zero, Bihan, is ordered by the Master of the Lin Kuei to retrieve the Sacred Scroll of Elements from a ninja temple. By this time, you've noticed the fact this game, at least the PS1 version, features live-action FMVs starring the actors from the digitized sprites. They're pretty cheesy and awkward, but that 90s cheese is my favorite part of Mortal Kombat, and you can tell the creators are having a lot of fun filming these. It's better presentation than the most recent MK game that, while still great fun, leans a little too far towards dark and gritty for my taste. Anyway, Sub-Zero lands in the temple and encounters his arch nemesis. Oh. Well, that was anticlimactic. Sub-Zero and Scorpion don't know each other yet. Scorpion is just some ninja guarding this temple. Speaking of this temple, here we are at the first level. Oh geez, this is slow. Oh, there's a run button like Mortal Kombat 3, so that works, I guess. Can't seem to turn around. I'm walking backwards, but not turning. What gives? L2? You have to press L2 to turn? This is going to cause some major problems throughout the entire game because it's counterintuitive, of course, but let's just move on. Like I said, the game controls exactly like a Mortal Kombat game, but plays more akin to something like Castlevania 2 or Zelda 2, which are not games you want to be compared to. You progress through non-linear levels, collecting items and leveling up to learn new abilities. Sub-Zero's ice powers are limited to this blue bar, which is kind of irritating, but even if it was infinite, this game wouldn't be any easier, because 50% of enemies eat that shit for breakfast, and the other 50% are always blocking. The enemies themselves have way too much health, taking 3 or 4 combos to kill even the basic ones on later levels. They're way too fast, most have long spears and poles, which would be reasonable if it weren't for the fact you have no leading room in this game. Sub-Zero is always about 2/3 of the way up the screen, so you can't see what's coming, resulting in endless blindsides by enemies or, God forbid, an instant death trap. This insane AI difficulty shouldn't surprise you though if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, as the game is sort of notorious for being way too hard in single player, especially the first few games, which featured such gems as nearly every MK3 port being stuck at the hardest difficulty at all times, or AI that literally reads your inputs, meaning you could only win when the game decided to let you. Now because of all this, I'm going to keep track of my deaths and keep you updated with this little counter here. It'll be important later. trust me. Sub-Zero moves on ahead and encounters an enemy or two, nothing big, but what's irritating, he lacks all his signature moves. You gotta unlock them one by one, it turns out. If I try to throw an ice ball or slide, I just stand there like an idiot and throw a low punch instead. You eventually get to a balcony, and here, a minute into the game, this shit already begins. If I had one word to describe this game, it's oversight. What I mean in this case is details the developers hadn't thought about that hamper the gameplay experience. You can't move the camera, and there's nothing here. Nothing behind me either that I missed. So I guess it's leap of faith time and dead. Well, fuck. I'm definitely supposed to go down there. Let's try again. Oh. Did something this time, and now it works. After some crusher traps and a few more guards, our blue hero makes his way to the Temple of the Scroll and meets that ninja again. The two battle it out, with Sub-Zero being victorious. It's not super obvious here if you don't perform a secret fatality that you probably wouldn't know to do anyway. But you know how Scorpion is a skull-headed denizen of the Netherrealm? This is actually how he died, and that's the reason he hates Sub-Zero so much. Hanzo was later resurrected by Quan Chi as the malevolent specter Scorpion and forced to work for him. Sub-Zero obtains the Scroll of Elements and returns to the Lin Kuei headquarters, where the Grand Master introduces him to Quan Chi. This is actually Quan Chi's first game appearance because Mortal Kombat 4 had yet to release at the time. And we all know how good that game was. Quan Chi explains that Sub-Zero needs to use the scroll to locate the Elder God Shinnok's amulet by defeating the 4 elemental guardians that protect it. So, Sub-Zero's adventure begins. First up is the Wind Temple, guarded by Fujin. Now, besides a lot of... this world isn't too difficult compared to the rest. It starts fine with some basic platforming, simple enemies, until you run across these bastards. This level is full of platforms that move in 3 dimensions, and because your jump is so floaty and awkward to control, you can't really time it precisely to land on a small platform. It doesn't help that the 3D objects move at a completely different frame rate than the character sprites. Well, it's kind of irritating, but I think I'm adjusting to all this now. It's not so bad, I guess. Just head up this wind tunnel and, oh, a door. I don't have this key shape yet. There isn't anything behind me, and if I jump down, I'll die from fall damage. Oh, yes, there's fall damage. We'll get to that shit. So, how do I get to that ledge down there? Oh. You just press down. How does physics? Whatever, I got the key now. I'll spare you the several dozen leaps of faith that will result in boring trial and error nonsense, and move straight to the boss, Fujin the Wind God. Okay, this is the first real level after the tutorial, so this boss should be pretty simple. Just jump kick him a couple times to... Excuse me? I can't hit him. He just keeps backing up indefinitely, even off the side of the stage. How do I hit him? Oh. I have to pray the game plays nice and throws out an attack I can punish on the ground. Then I can deal a piddly-ass amount of damage before he goes back to fucking Kansas or wherever it is he's flying to. This is superbly irritating, and I figured I had to be missing something. So, I mean, this is the second level. I haven't even mastered these asinine turning controls yet. I looked up some stuff online, and in addition to finding people who like this game even admitting that this guy's way too hard, the most efficient solution I could find was give up and stop playing this piece of shit. Man, do I wish I screen capped that. But I can't stop the video here. I have to keep trying, and 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 trying. Trying. Oh, hey, look at that. I beat him. He didn't stand a chance against me. What a fucking pushover. I guess we'll just talk about the next level now. Oh, I stopped recording, so I don't have footage. But if you deplete all of Fujin's health, he still won't die. He'll do a suicide tornado attack that will suck you towards him. Unless, that is, you crouch down in this exact spot. How would you ever know to do this? Well, you wouldn't, as nothing indicates that you should do this. Is anyone up still for defending this game as legitimately good? Because I offer now as your time to do that. Next up is the Earth Temple, and this one is moderately better than the last one. In fact, it feels like this should have been the second level, but don't worry your pretty little decapitated head, because there's still Plenty of bullshit. Starting with these holes in the ground. Yeah, more insta-kills. This game is absolutely filled to the brim with them, and platforming insta-death will be the cause of the majority of your failures. It took me a while to realize it, but these holes morph in and out of existence and leave no indication of their location. So I hope you weren't standing where the game didn't want you to, or else... yeah, that. It doesn't help that the pits tend to be surrounded by pendulums and crusher traps that can knock you back into said pits, resulting in more... yeah, that. Eventually, you'll encounter the new enemy for this area, these monk guys with lightning shields. You can't physically attack them, and they block your ice blast. So what must be done? Well, you wait for them to perform this half-second long warp animation, and then you can hit them with an ice blast. And since it gives you just barely enough time to fire, you have to stand in front of them and pray they drop their guard, instead of just running into your stupid ass as you slowly back up. Once you get past them though, it's back to the usual. Poorly controlled platforming, awkward combat, wandering samey looking corridors for keys that let you progress. The next boss is an Earth Golem. You'll notice very quickly that you don't stand a chance against this guy. Your attacks do piss damage, he tends to shrug off your combos. You should eventually work out that to the right of the arena, there's a switch that drops a big lift down on the Golem's head and takes away a chunk of his health. I thought to slide between his legs to trick him back and forth into the drop zone, which worked eventually, but he also would just randomly kick me away when I tried to. So again, more luck where you have to hope the game doesn't just fuck you because it decided to. After bashing the rock monster's brain in for the 5th or so time, Sub-EZ heads to the next temple. Yeah, why the fuck not? A water temple with changing water levels and multiple floors you have to swap between constantly that consists entirely of pale blue passageways with no clear direction of any sort. Still waiting for people to defend this shit. So, yes, this is the worst level by far, by a wide margin. The whole level is a series of sewer tubes interconnected by multiple large vertical spaces with chains to ascend and descend. This is where the fall damage begins to become a major contributing factor to your demise. Aside from things like simply missing the jumps, which is quite possible considering Sub-Zero's bizarre mid-air controls, you also have enemies that will either strike you while you can't see them, or will endlessly swing their pikes and stabs at you, so even if you do try to jump to a new area, you'll probably be knocked back and die. All that doesn't take into account that this is the only level in which you can easily get lost. Like I said, this place looks the same through and through. There's about 3 different room layouts that are recycled roughly 40 times throughout the temple. It took me about a half hour of conscious memorization to even have a basic idea of where I was going. The key doors are in random places here as well, rather than being any sort of linear progression. I'm a little hazy on the details, but to give you an idea, basically, you start in the top left, there's a door to the top right, a door in the lower middle of the map, and a door in the bottom left. And you don't follow these in any sort of sequential order. So you have to find and remember where each door is and what symbol it has, so you can return when you find the keys wherever the hell those are. It's worth mentioning at this point that the only way to checkpoint is to find a key or open a door. So say you have to deal with this section, where the key is in the bottom left and the door is in the top right. So you not only have to have the entire level memorized, so you can actually get to where you need to be, but also getting through the platforming and the 6 or 7 enemies in your way, all without dying, lest you be sent back and forced to repeat this. This particular instance I'm talking about also ends when you activate this door. It starts to spurt some water effects around, but maybe that's just a strange choice. There's plenty of that in this game already, but after a second or two, you realize the game expects you to run away. Okay, so you run and... dead. Well, better repeat that shit again, now that I know I have to use Sub-Zero's slide attack to get out in time. You might be saying at this point that I'm being too harsh here. That it's my fault for not memorizing the layout correctly or seeing traps like the water crush room coming. Look, I'm not going to be friggin' DSP here and claim I'm a video game savant or anything. However, I'm also 100% confident this is not my fault. And my reasoning is very simple. Memorization is not difficulty. Forcing me to repeat a process over and over until I memorize it before even having a decent chance at success is not good game design. While some teaching and learning from mistakes are necessary, of course, the skills I've been practicing over and over should help me advance on my own, without having to die to something before knowing it's something I should or shouldn't do. So much of this game is trial and error, jumping off into nothingness and praying you land, throwing every attack at every enemy at every frame of their animation, hoping to incur some form of damage, dull, repetitive layouts where it's easy to forget exactly where you've been, and bosses that can only be damaged in small, specific frames when the game allows you to do so. Like, look at the boss of the water temple. Oh. It's actually pretty easy. You can do some combos on it, all your attacks worth. The boss has some special attacks, but there doesn't appear to be any BS super armor or insane health or anything. Hell, this actually kind of feels like a round of Mortal Kombat. Albeit, that was actually kind of fun. And the fun continues with the Fire Temple. The best level in the game, and the only one I have no serious design gripes with. You can pretty much just run through this level, beat it in 2 or 3 tries. It's just simple platforms and basic enemies with some fire traps thrown in. I was enjoying myself while playing this level. And the boss happened. For starters, he's on fire, so no ice attacks, obviously. You also can't use your slide because it doesn't duck his fire, and he'll just grab you if you make contact. So you only get your basic strikes for this one, which wouldn't be a problem if this guy didn't teleport and shoot fire at you. To top it all off, this guy's probably the hardest hitting boss so far, with death coming in between 3 and 5 hits depending on the move he uses. It appears even the boys at Midway knew this guy was too hard and put a special item only found in this one level, one time. The item is listed as a potion, but upon inspection is actually called the Ditdao formula, which reduces damage taken for a time. This is apparently based on a real-life mixture called Ditdao, which reduces muscle pain and is used by martial artists. I don't mind this as an idea, but keep in mind, this is the only one in the entire game, and items don't return after death, meaning you only get one chance to fight this boss, and that's assuming you know to use it at the boss and nowhere else. And considering I used it earlier on accident while making room for one of the keys I needed, I was completely fucked here. But after a few more attempts, I persevered. I learned his patterns, found his weak points, and just barely scraped by, because you know what? I'm not a fucking quitter. Next level. Sub-Zero retrieves the amulet and delivers it to Quan Chi, who reveals the amulet was the only thing keeping the Dark God Shinnok from returning to wreak havoc. Raiden arrives and tells Sub-Zero he done fucked up and needs to go fix his mess right away. Raiden sends you to the Netherrealm prison where, if you performed the Skull Rip fatality earlier, you would fight an extra boss encounter with the now undead Scorpion. Since I had no idea that this was needed at the time, I did not. So instead, Sub-Zero just breaks out and goes looking for Quan Chi. This level introduces the new standard enemy, these Netherrealm guards. They hit harder and have twice the health of the monk enemies from before, and this level likes to throw them at you in 2 or 3 at a time. So spamming Ice Blast and Uppercut and hoping for the best is really the best solution here. The Netherrealm prison isn't anything special. More stiff platforming, more annoying enemies. Instead of keys to doors, you need keys for blah 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 blah. More stiff platforming, more annoying enemies. Instead of keys to doors, you need keys for lifts. Just use the card and nothing's happening. I'm pressing all the buttons and nothing is working. What the hell is wrong with this game now? I started trying random combinations of buttons until I finally found something that worked. I'm not sure what is intended to be done here, but the only way I could find was to press the direction I wanted to go, the use button, guard, and X or triangle depending on if I wanted to go up or down. I'm sure that's not what I'm supposed to do, but maybe it should just be press up or down or use or anything that makes any form of sense. At the top of the lift, there's a boss, and I'm not even going to pretend this time like I actually gave a shit about this. It's got twice your range, barely if ever staggers, takes little damage, ignores your ice attacks, tends to combo you into a quick death. Sound familiar? I know I must be like a broken record at this point, but it needs to be said, these are serious issues. They show up constantly in every boss fight. What's the fucking point of my ice attacks if they never work? What's the point of learning combos if the AI can just say, lol, JK, and hit you back when it feels like? How am I supposed to fight an enemy in fair hand-to-hand combat when they hit like a fucking 18-wheeler and I hit like a flaccid dick? Why do I even have a guard button when bosses just punch right through it? It honestly feels like this game was designed with a different character and playstyle in mind, because Sub-Zero absolutely is useless in this situation. Like, say you drop this game tile for tile into a game with a similar idea, like Super Metroid. Because of Metroid's better controls, lack of fall damage, increased health, lack of lives, and use of projectile weapons, this game would actually be fun, instead of an endless practice and frustration. Let's finish this already. Bridge of Souls, here we go. Jump across here and grab this urn. Grab this urn. Grab this urn. What now? What the hell now? My inventory is next to empty. I'm not overstocked. Just let me grab the stupid... I guess there's no fall damage now. I think I just sequence broke the whole level on accident? Okay. Just mosey ahead and... Nope. No, sir. No, sir. Guys on fire-breathing dinosaurs, that's my hard limit. After fighting some ninja broads that don't really ever show up again anyway, so who cares, you fight Shinnok by dodging around to his back, then touch his butt or something, and he dies or whatever. I don't really give a shit anymore. I think I hate Mortal Kombat now, so that's great. The game ends with Sub-Zero returning home when the Lin Kuei Grandmaster introduces him to Shang Tsung, who informs him of an upcoming tournament called Mortal Kombat. Oh god, what happened here? This was such a good idea. So why is it so bad? Did the Midway guys just not playtest this game? Did they not? I don't know. I think they cared. So what happened? This isn't Cuphead or Bloodborne. This is poorly designed shit that's hard for all the wrong reasons. Let me share something with you using this death counter. Keep in mind that this doesn't include the final level, which I skipped, but included 5 more bosses, so this number would be way higher than this. But all in all, this is the number of times I died. Now, the more observant viewers might have noticed that my life counter was stuck at 9 for the duration of the game. That's because the test runs I did before recording showed me just how difficult this game was, so I activated the 1000 lives cheat right off the bat to save myself the hassle. Had I not done that, and had I set my lives to the maximum default amount in the options, I would have game overed 15 times. I would have had to restart the entire game 4 times while accounting for the maximum amount of continues. Keep in mind that, obviously, full restarts from the beginning of the game would result in even more deaths and restarts. So, does this game really belong up there with Superman and Hong Kong 97? Is it unplayable garbage? No, not really. I don't officially score stuff around here because most of my stuff isn't, strictly speaking, a review. But for reference, Mythologies is like a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5 or 6 if you use cheat codes. There's nothing here but frustration and some campy cutscenes. Any small enjoyable sections are surrounded by an hour on each side by trial and error, poorly controlling nonsense. When there's so many good games you could be playing, there's really no reason to boot this thing up other than morbid curiosity of a hardcore Mortal Kombat fan. Sorry if you like this game and I pissed you off, but this game is bad. And while I normally welcome a change of opinion and a well thought out argument, this is a case where I just don't think I can be convinced otherwise. On that somber note, I'd like to thank you for watching the video. Likes and subscriptions and all that rigmarole are not necessary, but of course I'd greatly appreciate it. See you in whatever the next video is. Bye guys.